Well, hello everybody. Welcome into this Adobe Photoshop tutorial brought to you as always by tutvid.com. You saw the title. Today we're creating this sort of three-dimensional text logo. You really shouldn't create a logo in Photoshop, but you know what I'm saying. I got to use keywords as well. We're going to create this sort of logo-esque graphic in Photoshop with a primary intention on beginning to look at how to use text and 3D in Photoshop. It's actually pretty easy. I think you're really going to enjoy it. And speaking of enjoying it, if you enjoyed this tutorial, please make sure you hit the like button. It really helps out. And subscribe to my channel as well because, hey, why not? You'll never miss another one of these Photoshop tutorials in the future. And if you really love what you see, you can support tutvid.com by picking up a copy of my course. Now, normally I promote the How to Retouch Photos Photoshop course, but today, because this is more graphic design related, I have sort of like an intermediate and advanced Photoshop course. Link appeared right up there. You can go and check out that course as well. Pick up a copy for yourself today. It really helps us out here at tutvid.com. Without further ado, let's check out the tutorial. So you can see here, I've got this text, and actually let's break it down real quick. So here's where we begin. This is just the 3D that we're going to get from Photoshop. We'll change a few colors, just mainly, we could technically set the color as we're creating 3D, but I want to show you how to change some color after the fact. We'll do some global colors, some more global color and contrast, a light leak, change the color of the light leak, and then add some texture to it as well. Easy peasy. I love it. Let's go File, New to create a new file. Now, typically, I would create a much larger file, but because this is 3D and we're recording and I want to keep things kind of quick and easy in terms of rendering the 3D, you'll see what I mean in a little bit. We're going to begin with a document here, 1280 by 780. If you are creating this as artwork that you really want to use in a project, higher resolution, I mean, go for, you know, a bigger file, 2560, 1440. That's one of my favorites to work with right now, but you can go bigger as well. It's just going to take a little bit longer to render. I'm going to go ahead and hit Create. So here we go. A document. It is a document. It's kind of a small document, but a document nonetheless. We're going to just darken the background to a 50% gray by using the hotkey Command or Control U. It's going to bring up HueSaturation and set the lightness slider here, lightness right here at the bottom. We're going to set that to -50, and I'm going to go ahead and hit OK right there. Now we're going to grab our text. So I'm going to grab the text tool, and my text can be whatever color I like. I'm going to go with, well, I can see here I've got it set to a red, so we'll just roll with this red for now. In fact, if you want to copy and follow along exactly, the red is F2, F2E2E. I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to type out the word, let's just go with video, because I think that's the word we had just a moment ago, right? And I'll hit the little check icon to commit the change. Now, I'm using the font Fab Felt Script. I honestly don't remember whether this typeface is free or if it's a pay typeface. I can't really remember. But, you know, something that's kind of a bold script will work well, but honestly, any typeface will look pretty good. This is just what I'm kind of feeling right here, right now. I'm going to go select all, grab my move tool, and just align this text to the horizontal and vertical centers, Command or Control D to deselect. All right, so now that we have the text as a layer, the background as a layer, we need to do a couple things. First and foremost, we need to right-click on the video text layer there, and all the way down here at the bottom, New 3D Extrusion from Selected Layer. You see that? New 3D Extrusion from Selected Layer. Go ahead and hit that. And what's going to happen is Photoshop's going to say, hey, man, look, you're about to switch to the 3D workspace. It's big, it's bulky. You ready to do it? Absolutely, we're ready to do it. I'm going to do that. And you can see here we've got this text. I know it's red. Maybe yours is black. We're actually going to change the colors here. So really, seriously, don't worry about the color of the text. The next thing we want to do is go back to our layers panel over here. We got our 3D panel, but our layers panel. We want to select our background layer, and we want to right-click on that. And we want to change this or convert this to what's called a postcard. This is a 3D postcard. It's essentially going to make this a 3D layer. And now that we've done that, we can hold down our Shift key and select both layers and go 3D, Merge 3D Layers. And now look at what's happened. See, I told you the color of the text wouldn't really matter all that much. We have what looks like kind of a mess. And to begin sorting out this mess, let's jump back over here to the 3D panel. Oop, I accidentally double-clicked it. Now, here in the 3D panel, this is kind of interesting. What we have here is what's called our environment, the scene, the current view, which is just the way that Photoshop looks at this. If we were to, for instance, rotate our viewpoint, we're not actually rotating the artwork. This is just the viewpoint. See, I can come down here over this little doodad down here. I could right-click and choose default, which is going to set me back to the default view, and you can see it brings me right back to the default view mode. We have our background mesh, but most importantly here, we have, well, our background mesh, by the way, that's our background postcard. That's what we created. If I shut that off, see our gray background goes away. And these work just like regular layers in terms of you can shut them off, you can turn them on to make them disappear or reappear. And then we have our video text. Now here within the video text, I have a bunch of different materials. These are the textures, the front inflation material. This is the stuff that's on the very front of the letter. We are concerned with that. The front bevel material, we're going to be concerned with that because we're going to add a bevel to our 3D text. Right now there's no bevel. And the extrusion material, this is the bits on the side. See, it's kind of highlighted as red there. See the front infusion there and the extrusion stuff there. Now the back inflation and the back bevel, we don't need to change them. We're not going to even see them in the finished piece of artwork. We don't need to mess around with them. Now, before we go any further in this tutorial, as we delve into 3D, I do want to remind you guys, as I mentioned in the open to this video, pick up a copy of the course if you're interested in supporting the channel, or if you just like what you see here and you think it's pretty cool. Either way, it's pretty cool. It's a course all about intermediate and slightly advanced Photoshop stuff, I would say. I think you will really enjoy it. Let's get back to the video. All right, so what we need to do here is set the extrusion. We're not going to mess with any of the textures yet. I'm going to select the video objects yet. So I've selected all of the bits that make up the 3D text by selecting this video layer, right? And up here we have this option, Extrusion Depth. Now, what is the Extrusion Depth? Let's take a look at this. Let's go back to Current View. Down here in the 3D panel, I'm selecting Current View, which is going to be my view of the scene. I'm not actually changing anything in terms of the artwork. Look at this. If I go to the side, you can see this gray stuff. Remember, that's our background. We're just kind of looking at the side of the background, but it's like 1 pixel thick, so it's super thin. Our text, on the other hand, it's literally punching right through the background. That's happening because if I select my video text layer, the extrusion depth is 355. It's just too much. Let's set it to something more like 250. And I don't think 250, see that at 250, it's still punching through the background. Now, this is a very important step here. I'm going to take a little pause. Before I go and rotate my view, I need to make sure I switch and have current view selected. If I select video and I start moving this around, see, I'm not moving my view. I'm moving the 3D object on, like within that, layer or within that view, if you will. So our background's not moving. And if I right-click and return to my default view mode, see how it looks like the word video is just piercing through the background? It's kind of cool, but also kind of not what we want. So I'm going to hit Command or Control Z, and then Command Option or Control Alt Z to undo a couple times. There we go. And we undid our extrusion change. I want to make sure I have the video 3D layer selected. And I want to set this to 250 pixels. And now, how do I align those objects? Well, first and foremost, let's just let's right-click over here on our viewing options and choose to view the left side of this. All right, so you can see we've got the left selected. And what I don't like about this is I can't see my background. So I'm actually on current view. I am going to rotate it just a little bit because I do want to be able to see the background. Now I'm going to select my background mesh. All right, so that's the actual gray matter that we see there. Hold down my Shift key and select the video option. And now up here in my top control bar, I have some alignment options. I'm going to choose this one here, the Align Left Edges. And you can see it's going to push the background just to the base, so the background butts with the back of the text. Now watch this. I'm going to go back to Current View. I'm going to right-click and choose Default View. And we're getting this gap around the background. Why is that? Well, because when we pushed this gray background to the back of the text, we actually sort of pushed it backward in 3D space. So if you're looking at the front of my hand, the background got pushed this way. So the background got smaller. It didn't physically get smaller, but as my hand looks like it's smaller as it gets further away from the camera, it's the same type of thing that's happening here. So what we now need to do is take our camera and zoom it in a little bit so the gray is filling the entire background. So we're going to do that right now. I'm going to right-click and choose Default View Mode. And we're just going to zoom this in a little bit. So we've got current view selected. And up here, you can see it says 3D camera. We're just adjusting the camera or the view from which we're looking at our document. And I'm going to choose this little coordinates icon. And all I'm interested in changing is the Z of my movement. So I'm moving the camera. I'm not rotating it. I'm just moving the camera. And the Z is your depth. So let's change this to like 1250 or something. And you can see that we've zoomed it in too much. So let's try like 1350 maybe. That looks pretty good. Maybe that's a bit too much though. Maybe 1320. Not bad. Let's see what 1400 looks like. Okay, 1400, and let's just go down from here. So let's try 1375 maybe. There we go. That looks pretty good. Looks like we filled it out. 1375 on the Z looks good for what we did. Let's go now and choose our video text. And let's begin changing some of these textures. So let's choose the front inflation material. And here under diffuse, we're just going to make this the absolute brightest red we can. So I'm going to go brightest red I can. Okay. And I'm going to leave all these other options just at the default. Shine, reflection, roughness, bump, opacity, all that stuff. Refraction, I'm going to leave it all at its default setting. Next, I'm going to go to video extrusion material. And this is the bits on the sides. And again, up here in diffusion, I'm just going to set this to like a vibrant hot pink. All right, so I'm going to go with just a very hot pink. You can see just like that. Hit OK. It looks kind of crazy, but it is what it is. Next, we're going to add our bevel. So I could go to my bevel material, but we haven't even placed a bevel on this text yet. So let's choose our video text, and you can see we have these mesh options. Remember, before when we'd selected the 3D camera, these are all the 3D camera options. When we select our object, we have our mesh options. I want to choose this icon right here. This is the bevel or the edge cap stuff. And we have this bevel option here, bevel. And it's going to say, hey, you want to add a bevel? Sure. What width? How much of the text, the face of the text, would you like the bevel to cover? And we could say like 50%, and you can see what's happening to our text out here. We get this crazy bevel. 50% is way too much. Let's go with something kind of small, but still noticeable. Let's go with 10%. And everything else can remain the same. An angle of 45 is fine. The contour is great the way it is. We don't need to mess with it. Let's now choose the video extrusion, or not the extrusion, I'm sorry, the front bevel material. And what we're going to do here is we're going to make this a very bright red, but I want to also desaturate that bright red. So it's going to be sort of a pale red color, something kind of like that. Maybe a little bit more, a little darker, something kind of like that. Go ahead and hit OK. And one other thing I want to do before we try to render this out is use what's called an IBL, or an image-based light. We're going to apply this IBL to the overall environment. So select the environment scene, and you can see up here we have what's called an IBL. Right now it's just white. I'm going to hit this little folder and choose new texture. And it's going to say, hey, look, an image-based light, new. It's the width and height of our document, 1280, 780. Great. I'm going to hit OK. And watch what happens. Well, it doesn't really look like anything happens, right? So what we now need to do is select that little folder and choose Edit Texture. And we're going to get this new .psb file that's opened up. If we go to our Layers panel, we can do anything we want in here. We can paint a bunch of streaks. We could bring a photo into it. We could do anything we want. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my Marquee tool, and I'm going to simply drag a selection about, I don't know, 2/3 of the way up my document. So something right around there is great. And I'm going to fill this with black by going Image, Adjustments, Invert. So it's just going to flip the white to black and hit Command or Control D to deselect. Now this is way too high contrast. This is going to do crazy things to our 3D object. So we want to kill off some contrast. We're going to do that by going Image, Adjustments, Levels. This is all non-destructive editing because I don't really care about preserving the integrity of just basically what's going to be, you know, this image that Photoshop is going to use to garner some brightness information, and I don't really care too much about it. I'm not that attached to it. That's what I'm trying to say. And then I'm gonna set the output levels here in my levels adjustment to 65, which as you can see is simply going to brighten the darks, and then I'm going to reduce the brights to like 195. So we're just killing contrast. Make the black not so black, make the white not so white. Great. Now I can just go File, Save. It's going to save this, and Command or Control W to close it. And you can see what this has done is it's totally changed the way that our 3D looks. Do you remember what it looked like a second ago? Now our bevel has this nice, bright, crisp highlight on the top. The extrusion has these cool highlights on it. And this IBL is totally changing the way that our environment is sort of drinking in this light. So it really can do a lot for you. Now it's time to render. So before we render, we're going to go Photoshop Preferences. Now, if you're on the Windows machine, this will be under Edit Preferences. We're going to go Photoshop Preferences, and I'm going to choose 3D. Under the 3D options, what I'm primarily interested in is the Ray Tracer option down here. The higher this number is, the higher quality the trace is going to be, but the longer it's going to take to actually render out. I'm going to set this to 6 for our purposes here, and I'm going to hit OK. And now what I'm going to do is hit this little tiny icon right over here, or you can go 3D, Render 3D Layer. So let's go ahead and render this 3D. And what I'll do is I'll let this sit here and do its thing. In fact, I'll probably speed it up, and we'll be back and we'll be ready to work on our finished 3D object in just a moment. And there you go. Just like that, the rendering is done. Really didn't seem like it took that long, did it? Now what we can do, we have this 3D layer here. By the way, I jumped out of 3D workspace before I slowed my screen down. I went back just to my default workspace. I don't want to accidentally change something or undo this render. So what I'm going to do is quickly create a HueSaturation adjustment layer. It's this little icon right here in the adjustments panel. HueSaturation adjustment, because I want to show you how to do something like change the face of the text and not the sides. Now, one of the little tips that I would or should give you is, in general, it's just a good idea if you're going to do this and you're not totally set on the final finished colors that you're going to use. It's a good idea to just give different pieces of your 3D text vibrant and different colors to make them a little bit easier to select. You can use things like the little finger scrubby tool in the HueSaturation dialog box. Using something like color range becomes much, much easier. But for here, we're just going to use little finger scrubby. Now, if I scrub side to side on this red, what changes is the ability to change saturation. If I hold down my Command or Control key and scrub side to side, it actually changes the hue. So I'm going to change this to a pink, and I think I'm going to make it more saturated, something like that. And then I'll try either brightening it or darkening it. I'll darken it a little bit, and I'm going to try to change the hue a little bit more. Push it back toward red just a little bit. So we have a little bit more of like a hot pink color there for the face of our text. Something like -25, I think, is what I'll roll. You know what? Let me go -30. Yeah, -30 looks good. And then I'm going to actually drop some of the saturation out of it. There you go, +50. And then darken it to the tune of like -20. But actually, let me bump that brightness back up. See what that looks like. You know what? I don't think I'm going to mess with the brightness at all. I'm going to leave brightness as it is. So there we go. We have our text. We've changed the color of the face of it. It looks beautiful. The bevels are just looking great. Now let's go ahead and do an overall global color change. And I'm going to do that using the color balance adjustment layer right there. And here I'm going to begin with the highlights. So I'm going to, from the tone drop-down menu there, I'm going to go highlights. And I'm going to go +30 on the cyan and red slider, which is going to bump some red into our document. I'm going to drop some magenta into it. I'll just go -10, and I will push the blue slider down 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I'll push some yellow into the highlight, something like that. So -30 looks good. We can always revisit these later on if we're not liking the way they look. Here in midtones, I'm going to push more red into it. Let's go like 25. That looks good. I think I'm going to push some magenta into here, so I'll go like -15. You can see how pink that makes it look. And I think I'll push just a bit of yellow into it as well. So -10 on the blue-yellow slider. And then here in the shadows, we're going to come up here and we're going to drop some cyan into the shadows, so I'm going to go -20 on that. I definitely think I need some magenta in the shadows. That looks good, -10, and I'm going to push blue into the shadows as well. So you can see that really is going to change the way this whole overall picture looks. That looks pretty good. Although you can see down in the shadows, with that much blue in the shadows, it's really making it hard to see what all's going on down in there. So maybe I'll just push that to like 12. And over here in midtones, let me see, what's going to change? Maybe I'll add a little bit of blue in the midtones. Let's go like +10 with the blue in the midtones, something like that. That looks kind of cool. All right, very vibrant, super bright colors. I love it, I love it, I love it. Let's add an overall gradient map, and this really is going to change contrast. I don't know how much more contrast we need, but let's go with it. I'm going to go with this like plum to pale apple colors. And let's see what those colors exactly are. 1C3B50 if you're following along for the blue. And here in the red, it's FF4B39. Hit OK. Hit OK again. And we'll set this gradient map to a blend mode of a soft light. And I'll probably have to reduce the opacity a bit. Yeah, I'll knock the opacity down to like 30% or so. So it's doing a little bit. It is giving us a little contrast pop. I don't necessarily hate it, though. It's not too bad. And next up, what I want to do is drop a light leak into the document. So I have this light leak download pack that's available. I'll throw a link down in the description to it as well. But I think I'm going to take like the number 8 light leak here and just drag it and drop it into my document. Nope, I don't think I actually dragged and dropped it. Let's try that again. Drag and drop into the document like so. Yeah, it looks pretty good. I'm going to zoom out. I'm going to rotate this guy upward, kind of like that. I'm going to stretch it out. I'll place it kind of like right there. That looks pretty good. And then I'll set the blend mode here to screen. So we got this nice reddish pinkish light coming from the top. Now, obviously, we have an issue here with that hard edge. We can do a couple things. We can just hit Command or Control T and just stretch this out. Well, actually, that's not really going to fix it because we're still going to see a little bit of that hard edge. So once we've done that, we can throw a layer mask onto this layer, grab the brush tool, right-click, set the hardness of the brush to 0%. And we've got a huge brush here. Well, I think I still have it. Yeah, I need to shut off the shape dynamics and junk in there. I'm going to make my brush size a little bit smaller, and I'll just come through here and just paint that edge away until it's soft and perfect and looks great. If I want to change the color of the light leak, no problem. We come up here and add another hue saturation adjustment layer, and we clip this layer to just the light leak layer. That way, when we make color changes, it's only going to affect our light leak. Command-Option-G, that's Control-Alt-G on the PC. We can just shift the hue a little bit. So if we want to make it more like pink, maybe make it, well, not brighter, maybe a little bit darker so it's a little less pronounced, we can always do that. Maybe make it a little bit more bluish, purplish, something like that. It looks pretty good. There's before, there's after. Kind of neat. I kind of dig it. And now last but not least, we're going to drag in a texture. So I have this like grunge paper texture. I'm going to drag and drop it in here. You can really use any texture you like. I just kind of like this particular texture. Hold down my Shift key and just rotate this sucker around, and then hold down Shift and Alt, and I'm going to just stretch it out until it gets a little bit bigger. Great. It's imported it as a smart object. I want to invert the colors, so I'm going to right-click on this and just choose to rasterize the layer, and then hit Command or Control-I to invert those colors. Why? Well, because I'm going to use the blend mode screen to drop away all the black, and you can see we're starting to see our 3D text underneath it. And I'm going to drop the opacity to like 60% or so, 55, 60%, whatever, that's great. And we're going to go layer style, blending options, and we're going to use these blend if options here. And the only one that I'm worried about focusing on here is the one for the underlying layer, and the black slider at that. So I'm going to hold on my Alt or Option key and click on that handle. It's going to split the handle, and I'm going to drag the split all the way up to, like, I don't know, around 215 or so. You can see how that's really pushing all of the texture out to kind of the background. It's pushing it away from all of my 3D text. Now, there still is some texture on top of the 3D text. We want to get rid of that, of course. So apply a layer mask to this layer. I hit the new layer mask icon, grab the brush tool, and right-click. We're going to make the, well, we'll just choose a smaller brush here. Not even 45 pixels. Let's go like 18 pixels. That's great. We're painting with black. And you can just go over the face of the text and particularly get rid of, you know, these really annoying, very noticeable lines and big bits of texture. That stuff, I know we absolutely, definitely do not want. And when you go over it and get rid of all that stuff, it's just going to really help complete the optical illusion that this texture is texturizing this colored background underneath this 3D text. So that's really it. If you've enjoyed the video, please make sure you go ahead and hit the like button, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, for creating 3D text in Photoshop from scratch and creating all these cool color effects and lighting effects and texture effects and everything that goes with it on top of it. That's it. Get it? Got it? Good. Nathaniel Dodson, TutVid.com. I'll catch you in the next one.